So basically, he wants to reaffirm that this is not something just purely for the moment, but it is something which is ancient, which has been there. And then he goes on to talk about the knowledge of karma sannyas. Okay, so this chapter is about knowledge of karma sannyas, or rather, how karma sannyas is able to give you the ultimate gyan. Okay, so the knowledge of karma sannyas is in the shloka 18, which is karmanye karma pashyeta yah pashyeta. So basically saying that how you see karma in a karma and a karma in karma. When you see a karma in karma, then it is possible to see that only if the person is realized. And that is what is really outcome of a discussion happening around that particular shloka, to show that realized people are only performing a karma and they are only doing it for the welfare of humanity. And therefore, if you want to understand what is a karma, it can only be that which is with the realized people. Okay. And then aspects around that become clearer because we understand that karma sannyas is possible only if person is realized. Because if we sit down and say we are not doing any action, we are only fooling ourselves, because that not doing that action also is action. And then what are these yagyas which are helping us to sacrifice something? How do we perform, or what do we do? What do we sacrifice? And what are the outcomes of such sacrifices? And if you can focus on the sacrifices, then you will be able to understand that how to actually do asakti rahit karma. Okay, so if you say that this is not for me, this is not for me, and I'm sacrificing it for that, for the lok sangraha or whatever, benefit of welfare of humanity, then slowly you understand. Even if there is no actual fire, but you are actually visualizing that fire and offering it to the fire and saying, I'm sacrificing this. Okay, and that's got as much a meaning as sitting down around the fire and offering Havi and in the Agni and reading the mantras and chanting and things like that. Okay, so that's the essence, and Nilimaji has covered it very well in detail. Now let's look at the questions around this. Okay. So we understood what was karma in chapter 3. Okay, as we would all be. And now we are looking at that aspect of karma which is performed by those who are realized, or how to perform actions which help us to realization. So questions? Karma yoga is like that. We
So
have lots.
yes, are we seeing certain, what shall I say, parallel pathways with different outcomes, perhaps? To begin with, you have the organized varnas, and those who are born into them have a duty to perform as per the varnas. Uh, Sorry, I use the word born. I'm not sure if that is the right word. Those who are skilled in those varnas and therefore should be there is my interpretation from what has been said and written. It's not by word, but whatever. It's about that. If we fulfill that duty, if one fulfills that duty, then there is a achievement or a completion of an action which is as expected of that person. There seems to be a higher segment of that, or a higher path or level of that, where I think there's an example given that as a Kshatriya, if you give your life on the battlefield, you come closer to realization or you actually get realized into. So there is a fulfillment of progression on realization by doing your duty to the fullest and to the maximum extent possible. Then there seems to be a pathway where you have shorter term objectives which are related to outcomes of actions. I want to succeed in an exam, I want to earn wealth, I want promotion, so I do yajna, I go and give offerings in a temple, whatever. There is a outcome oriented yajna you want to call it or whatever. Don't know what the right term is. And Karma Yogi seems to be superior to that. And then there is the level where you follow the path of Jnana through the Guru, which is the most or the more superior of these. I don't know what you follow in subsequent chapters, but of the ones that we have discussed so far, that seems to be the most superior of the law and takes you that much closer to realization. There seems to be this kind of a layering in all of this. So that's one set of understanding I'm trying to put together. The one where the yada yada that we talked about earlier, am I correct in interpreting from there that he doesn't come in to destroy the lack of righteousness, he comes in only to restore balance? There seems to be an implicit statement that there will be righteousness, there will be lack of righteousness. At times there will be an imbalance, and when that imbalance goes in favor of the negative, that is when I manifest myself through my own Maya mechanism and help to restore the balance. But nowhere is there any mention of elimination of that everything becomes righteous, because in that case Maya disappears and everything gets realized. That's an interpretation. Is it right or is it wrong? I don't know. An element of confusion is another point. Somewhere there is a statement, and I don't have the references of the clauses, I just putting those down, is that uh, there are things in the Vedas which you should not follow. Is there in some of the references, or there are some practices that you should not follow. But in most of the other places, yet they said that you follow what was given in the scriptures as part of your yajna. There seems to be some conflict which I do not know what the resolution of that is, or what's the implication in the different clauses.
So let's start with one, two, three. Maybe by the time I get to the third one, I'll forget the third one also. So, so let's start with the latest one, the last one. So Vedas contain a set of rituals, okay, and then they are followed by a set of philosophies or gyan relating to gyan, and those gyan, that gyan is available in the form of Upanishads, which are attached to the Vedas. So what is being said is that if you are doing these rituals without understanding what you're doing, then you should not be doing those. And that is what he is constantly negating. Because in our system, we are often doing these rituals without understanding.
Blindly or this.
Absolutely. Some of those get veiled under the garb of Sanskrit shlokas, and we don't know them, and therefore we just allow the Pandit to do what he is doing. And some of them in our own ignorance as to what is it that we are really seeking, and what should we really be seeking, even if we don't understand the chants, then what is it that we are really doing it for? Okay. And that gets a lot better clarified when we are understanding some aspects of yagya or some aspects of how to perform actions and what is it that we should be seeking as well. Okay. So I hope that helps you to clarify the first thing, right? The second thing you spoke of, the third was about
The
the
righteous
yeah.
manifestation.
So the manifestation that he comes when he sees that there is too much dushkarm which is there, and he comes to balance it out, or he is come to destroy that. Yes, it's not for total destruction, right? Because humanity as it is not being destroyed, and we are still having people in this humanity who will be having to run their course of action, to have the run of their own course of karmas to realize themselves. So he is not come here to realize, to get everybody to realize themselves. But he is only come here to help those who are in that state of realization to be able to realize, the sadhus. So he's come here to protect them. He talks about creating this world for that which is the learned set of people. He calls them Brahman. मैं ब्राह्मणों की रक्षा के लिए क्षत्रियों को पहले मैंने बनाया. So he, to sustain this dharma in this entire existence, he needs those people to be able to be alive. They should not get destroyed, so that the dharma can prosper. That dharma to prosper means that people who are ignorant like us can go and traverse the path so that we can go towards our own realization. If we don't have these people, the sadhus, the people who are following the path, whether realized fully or not realized fully, we get inspired by them. And that's why we also follow their path. Right? So he comes to save them, okay, and destroy those which are causing this harm to these sadhus. So if we look at Ram, the avatar Ram, he was doing the same thing. Okay, we look at other avatars who have come, Vaman, they have come also for the same thing. Somebody who had become so powerful that he was almost destroying the entire world through his ego, now had to be settled, had to be sorted out. And Bhagwad Kathas talk about as to how various gods would align themselves and then come down and then become the nemesis of such a powerful Hiranyakashyap or anybody. Okay,
So,
so
interestingly, these primary examples of imbalance got their powers through penance
absolutely
from the
from the
gods,
same gods.
from the same representative set of gods whom Bhagwan has created.
Yeah. So anybody who is going to become strong through the penances, through the austerities, through the knowledge which has been made available, and he misuses it. Okay, and that's very important. So we read of Ravan admitting that I know everything, only that now I have become too proud. And therefore, I was not willing to recognize that Bhagwan has come at my doorstep and he is going to slay me. That I should submit to him rather than fight. Okay, so these are tales which are there as part of various things. We are not sitting here to emulate or understand them, but we're just trying to say that he is essentially saying that. Okay. Then we come to the first question, which is about the karma part. Okay, so at the most elemental level, we have the nitya karma. Okay, so we do our daily duties of keeping ourselves clean and brushing teeth and eating our food and so on and so forth. Then we look at kartavya karma, which is pertaining to not only our own body but also pertaining to those associated around ourselves. Okay, what duties, what what responsibilities do we have vis-a-vis them. And obviously the word ashram dharma part of it becomes important then, because the varna is according to our capabilities and ashram is the stage of life. So if we have kids, then it's a grahastha ashram. If the kids are left home, it starts becoming more like a vanprastha ashram. And then once you are into a stage where nothing really matters, you move into a sannyas ashram, which is also an automatic sort of a progression. But that progression, being automatic is one thing, and also a conscious view of it is another thing. Okay, so let's see, suppose I am in brahmacharya ashram. Should I go and spend my time looking at all sorts of nonsense, or should I actually focus on acquiring knowledge? Brahmacharya time is to acquire knowledge. Okay, so if I am focusing on acquiring knowledge, which will help me subsequently, then it's well spent time. Okay, if it's grahastha ashram, have I given children the right values, and have I, through the earnings which I have made from the society itself, have I offered some of it to the Lord, to the needy, for lok seva? I need to look at that, because that will help me dissociate myself from the attraction of all that which I have acquired in grahastha ashram. Because acquisition itself and keeping it with me also creates a certain amount of ego. The ability to acquire as well as to keeping it and to showcase it or demonstrate it also is a set of ego enhancing sort of an exercise. If I'm offering it slowly or whichever way for the benefit of the society, that ego is a little. You need to be sort of staying humble so that you are able to understand that my next stage of life is coming and I should be looking at how do I use that period of time. Okay. Now this one ashram dharma, he says he has created this only for this loka, where human beings exist. Now we don't know the rest, so we can't say, but it is a question which came to my mind when I was reading it, and I don't think I get an answer for it so easily. But yes, so this particular rule applies, and if you look at this rule, it is actually a very decent rule. It helps us to keep focused and allow us to stay in humility as well as in focus if we wish to be in focus, ekagrata. Okay, to pursue a goal which is larger than life, of our own liberation. Okay, so I think in a sense it works well, but if some people say it doesn't work well, then obviously it has got tainted by the aspect of caste. And what is this caste about is a big question, and how this caste has become a endemic pandemic, whatever it is in our own society as well, as much as it has been seen visible in many parts of the world. It's a very different issue. Okay, that's a separate issue by itself. It's more a power game of the one who has versus the one who does not have. But leaving that aside, if we just keep it focused on varna being categories which are arising out of our capabilities. Now, these capabilities could be out of a birth, and it could be out of something else as well. And mobility between varnas was never an issue in those times. And we've seen that in many, many kathas. Okay. And that's why to stay focused, to say that I will categorize it along the lines of caste, I think it's a little far-fetched in my assessment. Okay. So we look at kartavya karma, and in the context of the varnashram. The varnashram is not saying anything about uh, equality or inequality. Now, I question this also sometimes, okay, about equality of women versus men, because our shastras seem to be as if they're very paternalistic, very hierarchical and paternalistic. I think the interpretation is open, as you can see from Krishna. It may sometimes seem as if it is being offered only to the paternalistic to society, but it is, my sense is it is not. Okay, and we are seeing the, the, the the application of it by and success and benefits of it in women versus men. So I don't think there is really that sort of a categorization which he has done. I still believe that, however, people down the line have done it. Again, it is that same power game to say that men should be superior for whatever reason they may call themselves to be. But in the Shastras, it is not so in originality. So the differentiation which we have been creating between castes or between men, women, etc., are all divisive forces which we have created on our own, out of our own powers which have become vested in us through time and through whatever else, and we have been pushing the other person down. And I think that's really more a creation of our own need for power or whatever else we can call it. Okay. These are more social angles rather than aspects of the text by itself.
But both in Ramayana and in Mahabharata, a woman has been used as someone who was instrumental or
Not only instrumental, they were very important people.
so both Sita and
Draupadi, no, they were very, very important people.
yeah, but they were instrumental in the whole
Yeah,
Maya or whatever.
absolutely. So there is no inequality in that aspect.
They were both like probably not treated well. So it's not inequality, but
There were a lot of people who were not treated well.
yeah, but women.
I'm saying, yeah, but the point I'm making is that, well, stories go as stories, but yeah. But when we look at worshipping Ram, it's always Sri Ram, Radha Krishna. Okay, so please understand that it is never that there is a doubt about it. And by the Bhaktas, it is said very clearly that if you don't announce or pronounce Radha's name before Krishna, you will never go to get Krishna. You can never get Krishna, they'll say. It's so powerful as a message to us. Okay, so I don't know. This is a debate we can endlessly do, but yeah. So and people do it, but I'm just leaving that aside. But just mentioned it, huh? Because that's not the subject. Unfortunately, we have,
Basically, if you look at it, the 10 avatars,
yeah,
the only exception that really got followed by many is that one temple down south, where again it's a not pure woman, it's half Ardhanari.
yeah. Ardhanarishwar is there. All,
That's the only
but we have enough temples of Sharda, Sita
not as,
alone.
not as the avatars or manifestations.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
Ram.
All of that.
No, no.
Not as one.
Yeah.
I'm Mathura.
And
But
it
it is
was, okay. And it was, growing up, जब भी हम पिक्चर मूवीज देखते थे गुरुकुल की उसमें खाली जो प्रिंस और रॉयल फैमिली के बॉयज जाते थे कोई भी गुरुकुल में हमें वो नहीं दिखता था कि
Women going.
हाँ
Probably only Rani or Jhansi.
Anyway, we are no, we are. I think that is right. We've seen that, and it's a male-dominant society in which we have all come up. Okay, but that is needless to say is being very narrow-mindedness. Okay, and if we can accept that and go forward, it is better than saying anything more. For all of us, we as people who've grown in the same environment as you men are also subject to the same issue of subjecting women to. So we have to get out of it. That's all. If we recognize it, we can get out.
even in Jainism, like we are told by our gurus that a woman, since you're born in the woman, whatever, you will never be able to, attain nirvana. It can only be done if you are,
So,
woman can.
which is there maybe in Jainism, but
Yeah.
in Sanatan Dharma, as per Adi Shankara, he is always found women to be as. And there are stories after stories where he is met. In fact, there is a story where maybe we'll talk about that later. But I'll just tell you about he traveling through Bhubaneswar, or one of these areas, Orissa, and he lands up in somebody's. I don't remember the story too well, but his wife is the one who is realized, and Pandit, her husband, gets into some sort of a discussion with Adi Shankara, and then he says that I will go by the decision of your wife in determining who is right, whether you are right or I am right. So we'll start the discussion. The judge in this particular is the wife. क्या नाम है? मिश्रा थे कोई? हाँ, क्या नाम था उनका?
पूरा नाम नहीं मिलेगा।
अच्छा, चलिए, you can now Google it. So essentially, they have this dialogue, and they have this discussion, they have this argument or whatever. It's a debate, sorry. And the wife says that her husband is wrong and Adi Shankara is right. So he knew that she is already got that understanding. And he therefore appointed her to be the judge. Okay. So the cases after cases like this, which he talks about in his journey, or we hear about it from his journey. Okay. So Kartavya Karma is another aspect which we don't know how to do at times. Okay, so he'll define that maybe as we go along. We can do our duty, but are we doing it with care? Are we doing it with love? Are we doing it with joy? Or are we doing it with pain? ड्यूटी है इसलिए मेरे को करना है, या मैं तत्पर हूं, मतलब am I eager to do it? मैं परेशान होके कर रहा हूं, और am I doing it joyously? Okay, and these final points determine actually as to how you're doing it. Are you seeking something from the kartavya karma for your own self? Do you have, so you are looking for some other fruit other than just doing the duty for the sake of the benefit which it has to give to the person? Are you doing it out of love? Or are you doing it out of compassion? What is it are you doing this kartavya karma? That becomes very important. And in that same context, if you're doing it without having an attachment to the outcome, to asakti rahit karma, without any fruit, you made it into nishkam karma. I always have a desire of some nature when I am performing an action, कि ये चीज मेरे को हो जाएगी. मैंने आज इतना काम किया तो कल मेरे को इतने पैसे मिलेंगे, या मेरे को रिकॉग्निशन मिलेगा, कुछ भी मिलेगा. और ये आदत हमारी छूटती नहीं. यही आदत हमारे को बांधती है, क्योंकि जो वो आउटकम है, that outcome, because I have an attachment to the outcome, that outcome comes and gets attached to me. Have you read that somewhere? So why does it bind you? Because that attachment to the outcome comes and attaches itself to you. खुद ही उसको आपको बांध देती. अब जब वो आपको पैसा मिला, आपने जाके कहा कि मेरे को पैसा मिलना चाहिए, ये मैं काम कर रहा हूं, उसने आपको बांध दिया. पैसा मिल गया, अब एक बार ही पैसा मिल गया तो दूसरी बारी भी मिलना चाहिए, तीसरी बारी भी मिलना चाहिए, चौथी बारी भी मिलना चाहिए. और अब वो मेरे को मिल गया तो उसके बाद में अब मेरे को अपनी ईगो सेटिस्फाई करने के लिए मेरी गाड़ी बड़ी बड़ी होनी चाहिए. कोई अंत है उसका? घर बड़ा होना चाहिए, कोई अंत है? वो ही चीज हम शुरू से करते आते हैं, और जब गृहस्थ आश्रम समाप्त हो जाता है उसके बाद भी करते रहते हैं. और गृहस्थ आश्रम में भी भूल जाते हैं कि उसका कुछ प्रतिशत हमें भगवान को धन्यवाद देने के लिए करना चाहिए, क्योंकि हमको उसने इतना सब कुछ दिया. मेहनत का फल भी मिलना जो है अपने अनुसार, वो भगवान ने दिया. फल के इच्छा हम कर सकते हैं, फल देने वाला तो वही है. उसका अनुसार ही चलता है, बाद में बताएंगे, अभी आई थिंक 5th चैप्टर में उसके अनुसार ही चलता है वो सब संसार। अब हम कहेंगे कि वो एक रूल्स में बंधा हुआ है, हाँ रूल्स में बंधा हुआ है। इफ यू डू गुड यू विल गेट गुड बैक, but there is also a possibility that if you do good many times you don't get good back, because there are other forces also acting which you are not aware of. Okay, there is some prarabdha of karma of yours which may be intercepting it. There will be something else which will come into play. That person whom you are doing it for, he is not the recipient of that particular outcome. कुछ भी हो सकता है। तो ये एक ग्रे एरिया बन जाता है कि whilst we do our कर्तव्य कर्म, we do our आसक्ति रहित कर्म. Now in that कर्तव्य कर्म, we can also be doing it as if we are doing it with the feeling of devotion. Okay, and that devotion could be towards the body or towards the Ishwar in the body. I am doing karma. Let's say I am doing it for my children, or I am doing it for my kartavya karma for my parent. I can see the body and I can offer or do karma for the body, or am I doing it also for that Atma which is there? That Atma is not part of the body. I'm not saying that. But I, through the body, am understanding there is an Atma. And therefore I am able to do it in the Brahma Arpanam, that shloka number 24 manner, in that particular manner. Okay, then I see that what I am offering, whom I am offering it to you to, and how I am offering it are all the same. Part of the kartavya karma. But how am I doing that kartavya karma? Because kartavya is something which he is not absolving Arjuna of in any case. Okay, he has taken it up front in chapter 2 itself. यदि तू ये लड़ाई नहीं लड़ेगा तो you will be called a coward. Right up front, okay? The vyavharik aspect, the practical aspect, the social behavioral aspect, he has confronted that right up front after talking about Atma. So it is very clear. The kartavya is very clearly there, and how we perform that kartavya is what we are trying to understand. So there is an aspect of asakti rahit karma and Ishwara arpan karma. In this chapter, the asakti rahit karma has been treated as if it is leading to sannyas itself. Ishwar arpan karma is leading itself to sannyas itself. So whilst we stay in the prakriti which has got action as part of its nature. एक निवृत्ति रूप धर्म है और एक प्रकृति रूप धर्म है. ठीक है, निवृत्ति रूप धर्म है जो कि ज्ञानियों के लिए है, which is a total absolving of this manifestation, okay, dissolution of this manifestation in that as to what is their dharma. Okay, and we are in this prakriti, we are in the existential space, and in that existential space action is existing, and in that action oriented world itself, how you are becoming a sannyasi, which is what this chapter is saying. You are becoming a sannyasi because you're performing your action without having any attachment to the outcome. Okay. Now that sannyasi, if you are doing it without any attachment to the outcome, then you are also slowly resolving all the other aspects of desire. Okay. You are doing it because there is certain amount of shraddha. Doing it because you like doing it that way. You can do it only if you don't have desire for any of these other objects or anything through the senses. So all these three aspects get coupled together in the shloka, which is talking about जो श्रद्धावान है, जो तत्पर है, और जो जितेंद्रिय है, जिसने अपने इंद्रियां वश में कर ली है, वो जो है मेरे को पाता है. तो ये चीजें, तीनों चीजें जो है, ये कर्म संन्यास, इस रूप में कर्म संन्यास के द्वारा होती है. इस रूप में कि हमने जो कर्म करा, ईश्वर अर्पण कर्म किया, और हमने जो कर्म किया वो फल आशा रहित के ऊपर कर्म किया. नाउ इट्स अ वेरी वेरी टॉल ऑर्डर, okay, to perform actions without having any desire for the outcomes. So what do? You submit that desire to the Lord. ईश्वर अर्पण. मैं यहाँ पर आता हूँ, मैं जो भगवान का दिया हुआ गीता में है वो उच्चारण करता हूँ, समझाने की कोशिश करता हूँ, और जो उसका आउटकम होगा मैं उस पे भगवान पे छोड़ देता हूँ, भगवान को अर्पित कर देता हूँ. मैं अपनी बात बता रहा हूँ. ठीक है? आपको क्या मिलेगा, नहीं मिलेगा, क्यों मिलेगा, कैसे मिलेगा, क्या होगा, मेरे हाथ में कुछ नहीं है. कौन आएगा, कौन नहीं आएगा, किसी क्या परेशानी है, किसका क्या है, मुझे कुछ मालूम नहीं है. हो ही नहीं सकता. कोशिश भी करूंगा तो हो नहीं सकता, नहीं हो सकता ना. तो इस प्रकार से एक अर्पण कर दिया गया कि जो भी हम कर रहे हैं वो उसको अर्पित है, और उससे ये भी है कि मेरे में खुद में कोई अहंकार ना हो उत्पन्न, मैं उसका कर्ता ना बनूं तो और भी अच्छा है, क्योंकि अकर्ता हो गए, डूअरशिप निकल गई. तो इसी प्रकार से आप लोग भी अपना अपना जहां पर भी जो करते हैं, यदि वो करेंगे तो वो भला ही होगा. किसका भला होगा? सबका भला होगा, आपका भी भला होगा. ये अभी तक इन्होंने यहाँ तक समझाया है. काफी मतलब कर्मयोग का काफी हो गया है. एक और सेक्शन रहता है where he'll be now explaining exactly how this karma sannyas is going to happen, okay, for people like us who are ignorant, through the practice of asakti rahit karma and ishwara arpana. Okay. Now, does that help you?
Yes.
The first question which you asked, and I answered it third.
Yeah. Perspective.
Perspective. Now, when we are therefore following this path of karma sannyas, we have almost become sannyasis as we progress, okay? And that sannyasi is what is being referred to as the person who is going to be on the path to the realization of jnana. Because his karmas are no longer actions by themselves. They fall into the category of akarma. Have you seen that transition happen in Shloka 18? Because he is no longer the doer, उसका कर्म अकर्म. और वो अकर्म किसका है? एक सन्यासी का ही हो सकता है. अब आप आ गए सन्यास योग में. अब सन्यासी जो है यहाँ पर रहते हुए कैसे सन्यासी हो गया? सामने से दिखने से नहीं हो रहा. तो हमारे जीवन में बहुत लोग मिलते हैं, स्पेशली कहीं पे जैसे गुरुद्वारा वगैरह में जो सेवा करते हैं, या कहीं मंदिरों में लोग सेवा करते हैं, या कहीं पे भी और बड़े बड़े भी ज्ञानी हैं जो सेवा करते हैं. तो वो सेवा करते रहते हैं और आपको लगता है कि वो कुछ कर्म कर रहे हैं, वास्तव में तो वो कर्म कर रहे हैं, और वो सन्यासी ही, और वो ज्ञान की तरफ स्पीडीली बढ़ रहे हैं, रियलाइजेशन की तरफ. ये सारी इसकी मैपिंग हो जाती है एक तरह से कि कैसे हम उस तरफ बढ़ते हैं. Is it getting too, or is it too complex still? Or we'll still figure it out.
Any action, even if it's a karma or sakarma, it's done for a purpose, right? There's a purpose to do. Everybody is doing their thing. But there's a purpose. Everybody has a different purpose. So purpose and result are different. So purpose का यही ना करेंगे. तो फिर वो result तो, I mean, if there's a purpose, that itself shows they want that result.
Yeah, so we take the example of Arjuna. He is being asked to fight the battle. And if he loses his life, he loses his life. He wins the war, he wins the war. The purpose is to try and defeat the enemy. But the outcome of it is not in his hand.
So purpose is there.
Yeah.
Purpose is for an outcome.
Yeah.
Purpose and outcome are two different things.
But here Arjuna is not scared of the outcome. He's just in remorse.
He was afraid of the outcome. That's why he submitted himself.
Outcome is he didn't want to kill his people.
What will I get
Yeah.
if I fight this war? I'll only get destruction, because war only causes destruction. Okay, and how can I kill my near dear gurus and grandfather?
So he didn't want any result.
He didn't.
He was not like attached to the. He was attached to.
He was attached to that result. That's why he was so. He's feeling this.
He was afraid of the outcome. He expected the outcome. He didn't want to face it.
Any war is for destruction, and humanity, large swaths of humanity get destroyed. Okay.
But isn't this akarma? What fighting, wanting to defeat? Isn't this?
So it is a kartavya karma. Now that's the first thing he is told: go and fight, because that's your duty. Then in the next chapter, he is told that you should fight without looking at the outcome. Then he is told after that you submit the entire outcome to me. मेरे को अर्पण करके फिर युद्ध करो. Once you've done that, there is no problem. There is a problem.
Because there is so many killings. I mean, I'm talking.
I'm asking you to follow this thought, because you'll find this thought coming back again and again through what Krishna is going to be telling you. First is, do your kartavya karma. Second is that he will tell him that do it without any attachment to the outcome. तो अपना युद्ध कर, सिद्धि मिलती है, असिद्धि मिलती है, उसको छोड़. Then he says finally that submit the entire outcome to me. And then he's telling him that you're not the doer. Okay, when we go into Bhakti Yoga, we see that you're not the doer. I have already killed them. See,
Yes.
they're all lying dead. Okay, so he's trying to convince you through this example that do your action, submit it to me, do it without any attachment, and you will be realized. And there's no other path which is there for people like us, that you can say that I am going to now go and run away into the mountains and I'll be a realized person.
So Arjuna was blessed to have Krishna directly telling him.
Yeah, but this particular knowledge has been existing in various ways in the Vedas, even before that.
To have God by the
Yeah. So this is more practical. Gita is a very practical document, Shastra. That's why it's widely quoted, widely used, widely practiced, because others remain as philosophies.
So your current book has been explained very well. Otherwise, there's so much confusion regarding Karma Yoga. We don't even know
Yeah.
is the different types of karma, even yagya karma, everything is
It's
so
very-
nebulous. We just go
Yeah.
into philosophy.
Yeah. Now you can certainly go and read as much as you want about Yajna Karma in Vedas, okay? Or you can do anything about pranayams and all the various asanas in yoga. But once you understand this, you'll understand that there is something different, actually speaking. And you'll have to figure that out as to what is it that is actually different in any of these shastras. And therefore, how do you apply that, use that and apply that when you read those shastras?
But I mean, at least at my stage, I'm getting to so many
No,
practices. It's
no, whatever you are practicing, that is sufficient. But for those who wish to, you can always. More questions, please. Please.
So if we go back to something that you found last time. So somewhere we're talking about the efforts being destroyed if these scriptures are not followed properly. And therefore there is a need to get the right guide, mentor, guru, whatever, who's the real right person. And last time we were discussing about how do we identify, I know there are traits in the earlier chapter, how do you know that this person is the right person? Because if you're not the right person and leads you down the wrong path, then blindly, but may not be entirely blindly, but by having faith, which is also a requirement um, the efforts can get destroyed because of misled guidance. Uh, so it becomes important to identify the right guide so that the efforts move in the right direction. One can't say it is fate and I've got the wrong guide because of fate or something. So it comes back to that question. How does one?
Yeah, so let's keep ourselves close as possible to a text, like Bhagavad Gita. I think that is the first principle. Okay. In Bhagavad Gita itself, in chapter 2 itself, he is saying that don't go after people who are जो आपको अच्छी अच्छी बातें सुनाते हैं धर्म के बारे में, because they are only telling you about those good things because they want to attract you. Watch out for them. Also read the text yourself. If there is an alignment between what is being written in the text and what is being spoken of, then there's a possibility that you are on the right path. If you practice some of those principles, then slowly you will refine yourself to meet the right guru. Let me just say it as simply as that.
Next effort is
Yeah. He will also come into your life without you knowing it. All that will also happen. But your task is to see that you're following a reliable text, understanding it as much as. And anybody who is giving you all sorts of other things other than that particular gyan, which is there in the text, then you have to watch out for that. Okay. So putting lots of good verbiage around it is not going to help. And as you noticed that some of this is really actually very sharp. We have to, the words have to be very sharply defined so that it's correctly understood. Otherwise, the mind gets distracted in the adjectives and the qualifications and so on.
So that what I gather is that if you're not attached to the outcome or the result, it's like you believe this is what was meant for me. Whatever is
That is a secondary question.
no, like you believe that yes, this is what was meant for me. whatever is the outcome has come. So you will neither be disappointed nor happy.
Yeah, so that is one of the states which helps you to realize yourself. What is that state of samatva buddhi, of equanimity? You're not depending on the outcome. Your state of balance or imbalance is not dependent on the outcome.
So that is what we are conditioned to believe since Bachpana. कि जो आप मतलब whatever is meant for you.
Yes, but still, as to how it happens, what should you do with it, what further progress you can make, is entirely dependent on your own stage of life or capability or whatever else you call it. Manjuri, any question? Anything?
Basically, this means आप भी कर्तव्य करो जो आप लोग कर रहे हैं. You just cannot say that action जो भी है वो it has to happen, therefore I can't do it. But you do it with devotion, without any expectation, and with love, happily.
Whatever, you'll have to do it with some purpose. That purpose, if it is being defined by your grahast ashram norms, then see as to how you can dedicate it for the larger benefit or whatever. You can figure that out. The larger purpose around it. The narrow purpose is very simple, that my teeth should not hurt, so I should brush my teeth. Okay, but that's an important piece. It's not something not to be done, but important piece is that you don't just brush your teeth for that, but you brush it because you want to be healthy and so that you don't become a burden on somebody else and you don't want to suffer yourself and you want to have others to be living a healthy life. So, those things are all.
I feel a physical person may not appear as your guru. You may not. But then the text is there. The
Yeah,
text itself can be your guru. Your
that is true. I think that is true as well.
Everybody doesn't have a physical guru.
That is there as well, but each of these things are given there in the Gita as well. So you just see, in fact, if you read the Gita only with the perspective that how do I find out that I am on the right path, that can be an exercise by itself. How do I find a guru? Also, it's mentioned in a few places, not just one place.
And maybe you don't find a guru, the guru just finds you.
Also, it's possible. It's also possible.
Is that true? Because a lot of people say that you
It
can't
is.
find a guru, but guru will find you. You chooses you. You do your duty or your knowledge or your this with dedication, and the guru will reach out to you.
Yeah. So there are stories after stories, and those stories inspire you as to how people found their gurus, etc., which is a set of models which are there.
सर हमने भी तो आपको ऐसे ही पाया है.
नहीं, मैं
चाहे
गुरु-
बिल्कुल हम लोग नहीं गुरु ना करें जो भी मतलब जो भी है सीख तो आपसे रहे तो ऐसे अचानक ही तो आप हमें मिले.
हाँ, जाने की हम लोग सब.
बिकॉज वी वर वेरी कीन कि हम गीता पढ़ें.
हाँ, तो संयोग की बात है.
It is said that Lord Krishna sends you a guru when you're ready.
Correct. But we will not recognize the Guru because we are still totally engaged in what we believe in, what we think, and the name and the shape in which the Guru is appearing is also not known. So, we'll most often reject the person.